hearing, we are at a crucial juncture in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Joining us live from London is Fawaz Gerges. He's a professor of international relations at the London School of Economics. Look, we were hearing there about some of the geopolitical realities, some of the military realities, including that extra aid from the United States. Given all of that, do you think there's any way of bridging this gap between Hamas and Israel around the ceasefire going forward? One of them wanting effectively to extend phase one and Hamas saying, no, we want to move to phase two, which, as we know, includes the full Israeli military withdrawal from Gaza.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. First of all, I don't see why we are all surprised by what's happening. There is no surprise about the fact that Israel has repeatedly said that it will not basically pull its forces out of Gaza. Israel has repeatedly said it would like to have a free hand in Gaza, similar to the free hand that it has in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. Israel has repeatedly said, Israeli officials on record, they have no intention to go to stage two or phase two of the ceasefire. Why? Because stage two of the ceasefire would mean turning the temporary ceasefire into a permanent ceasefire. It would mean the exchange of all Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners and captives. It means the end of the war. It means basically the collapse of Benjamin Netanyahu coalition and the end of his political career. What you have now is really exactly what Israeli officials have been saying for the past, few weeks, that basically they want to get all the Israeli hostages from Hamas and then either resume the war or force Hamas to expel Hamas both politically and militarily from Gaza.
So I suppose when you put it in those terms, then you effectively think that the ceasefire is over unless Hamas concedes.
Well, unless Hamas surrender. It's not about concession by Hamas.
Okay, because so more dramatic than concession, complete, yeah. Go on, sorry.
Keep in mind that the overarching strategy of Netanyahu is total victory, absolute victory over Hamas. And what does absolute victory mean? It means not only the expulsion of Hamas, both bureaucratically, politically, and militarily from Gaza, but having permanent Israeli occupation of many parts of Gaza. Israel has already established a buffer zone in the north, huge buffer zone. It has refused to pull out of the security zone on the Gaza, on the Palestinian-Egyptian border. That's the Philadelphia, basically, corridor. It has already violated phase one of the ceasefire. So the reality is, and it seems to me, what Israel wants is to extend phase one of the ceasefire, to get as many hostages as possible from Gaza and then basically either resume the war or force the Arab states to really basically convince Hamas to pull out, to really get out of Gaza, both politically and militarily.
So I suppose the big question then is, Hamas, a force now that spent the last few weeks during these hostage exchanges presenting itself as still a de facto force to be reckoned with in Gaza, will they surrender?
Well, I mean, what does Hamas? I said we know what Israel wants. Ultimately, Israel wants to depopulate Gaza, either to force the Palestinians out of Gaza, not just Hamas, but the 2.3 million Palestinians. And Israel, most Israelis, including, of course, the Israeli public, a large number of public, accepted and welcomed Donald Trump's plan for the displacement of the Palestinians. What does Hamas want? Hamas wants to survive, both politically and militarily. Hamas wants to make sure that Israel does not really remain permanently occupying many parts of Gaza. It has already accepted, Hamas has already accepted, basically, to lose, to not to control the Gaza Strip, bureaucratically and politically. It has already said they're willing to accept a Palestinian authority, a Palestinian societal authority to take control, but they have refused to disband militarily. And Israel, of course, Israel not only does not accept Hamas to remain in Gaza, Israel does not accept even the Palestinian Authority to return to Gaza. Israel does not really want any kind of Palestinian autonomy or sovereignty in Gaza. This is a key point. They want to have a free hand, free security to do whatever it wants, and any Palestinian autonomy or authority would basically undermine Israel's total blockade, total control of the Gaza Strip.
Well, it sounds like from what you're saying that any kind of bridging of this gap is going to be very difficult indeed. I do want to ask you about something you mentioned in an earlier answer. You mentioned the role of Arab states, and we have heard a little bit more about this potential Arab-led peace plan. What more can you tell us about it? What do we know? And do you think that could present any kind of solution at this juncture?
I mean, look, you're asking me about the Arab peace plan or reconstruction plan for Gaza.
Yes.
Right?
And it does mostly focus on reconstruction, is my understanding, but you tell me.
But how can we focus on reconstruction if we don't really have a ceasefire, if we don't have a permanent ceasefire, if the war does not end? Here is what's happening, and I'm not exaggerating. What Israel is trying to do is to create facts on the ground in Gaza. What Israel is trying to do is to preempt the Arab states from really trying to convince Donald Trump that his foolish idea, his monstrous idea about expelling the Palestinians is really does not go anywhere. And here is what the tragedy of what's happening is that I think they think people are dumb or stupid. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu said he accepted the American plan for the extension of the ceasefire, that is Steve Witkoff's plan. The Steve Witkoff's plan is the Netanyahu plan, because whatever Israel wants, the United States basically follows. So what Witkoff has done is on the Netanyahu extension of the first phase of the ceasefire. And already, as you said, that the United States has already basically is sending $4 billion in emergency, more arms to Israel in order to really pile up the pressure on Hamas, on the Arab state, to really get the Arab state not only to convince Hamas to leave Gaza, but to provide an Arab collective force led by Egypt for Gaza. This is the underlying point for your own viewers. The idea for the United States and Israel, most of the Israeli leadership, is to basically replace any kind of Palestinian authority in Gaza with an Arab collective security led by Egypt. They want to dump the Gaza problem on the hands of the Arab state and make sure there is no Palestinian autonomy or sovereignty in Gaza for many years to come, for many decades to come.
And worth remembering that Egypt, of course, gets lots of money from the United States. Fawaz Gerges, always so great to speak to you on TR2 World. Thank you so much for your insight and analysis today.